Chapter 230, Unbounded Arrogance. That student with the hat. Amidst the shouts, Zutui casually picked a student from the mystery branch. He was not tall, but he was wearing a baseball cap. At this moment, he was raising his hands high. The student clenched his fists and cheered when he was chosen by Zutui. Wait for me to put on my combat uniform. The other students who were not chosen all looked disappointed. Moreover, Zutui had chosen a male student this time. The few students who were about to disguise themselves as sissies were momentarily speechless. They could only hope for the next time. Zutui stood on the stage and looked at the disappointed students. He suddenly said, "Why don't we have another student? I'll fight the students at once, one-on-one. I don't feel any pressure." Holy shit! The freshman from the mystery branch immediately exploded. There was no pressure to fight one-on-one. Zutui was going to fight one against two. This was too f***ing arrogant. Many people knew that Zutui indeed had the ability to take on to people by himself, based on the strength he had displayed during the actual combat exchange with the India sector. However, it did not feel good to hear Zutui publicly announce it on stage. They were very unhappy. They were extremely unhappy. They were both freshmen, but Zutui wanted to fight two of them at once. Wasn't he looking down on them a little too much? Come, let me do it. Let me do it. I'll knock you down. Zutui, choose me if you have the guts. Zutui's arrogant words immediately aroused the indignation of many students from the mystery branch. To be honest, in a one-on-one battle, they simply wanted to increase their combat comprehension and experience the terror of flying sword warrior. The chances of winning were extremely low. It was an extravagant hope. However, it was different when it was 1 against 2. Many people felt that the chances of winning should be higher if it was 1 against 2. At the same time, the number 1 genius of the mystery branch of the freshmen, Chazan, was also thinking the same thing. However, compared to the other students, he paid more attention to Zutui. Therefore, although many students were clamoring around, Chazan was still observing. Zutui had yet to choose his second combat classmate. Immediately, a student who was not convinced started to jeer, "Zutui, what's the use of fighting 1 against 2? If you have the guts, fight 1 against 3. 1 against 3, sure." Zutui raised his eyebrows and immediately agreed. However, you have to be careful if it's 1 against 3. Because if it's 1 against 3, I might have to use my full strength. When they heard Zutui's words, some of the students immediately became interested. They might not be able to defeat Zutun in a 1-on-2 situation, but what about a 1-on-3 situation? Could they not win? Thank yous to more. We'll fight you 1-on-3. To be honest, your battle with Zuo Kinking just now was too boring. It was so soft. I didn't see your strength at all, a student shouted. Sure. Another student spoke just as Zutui was choosing his target. Zutui, you're going to use your full strength when it's 1 against 3. Do you dare to fight against 4 people? Zutui had yet to answer when another student started scolding him. Kid, can you be any more shameless? We're all in the first year. A 1-on-3 is already very abnormal. You still want to fight 1-on-4? Where's your shame? Isn't he flying sword warrior? Besides, he was the one who said he wanted 1 against 2. He had agreed to fight 1 against 3 too. I'm just asking, the student said indignantly. Zutui bared his teeth when he heard that. I might be able to give it a try if it's 1 against 4. I'll choose the person. If you're willing to come up, let's try 1 against 4. The one in the white fire shirt, the one playing with water, and the student playing with mud balls. Including the one from before, the 4 of you will do. Zutui quickly called out. The surrounding students exploded again. He really called out 4. It was really a 1-on-4. The 4 people he had chosen were all very strong. Chazan was also extremely shocked. Zutui was really going to fight the 4 of them alone. This confidence was really powerful. Of course, he was also very arrogant. Was he treating Year 1 genius like nothing? 1-on-1 and 1-on-2 were within the normal range. However, the difficulty of fighting 1 against 3 was completely different, not to mention 1 against 4. Amidst the students' shock, the 4 students that Zutui had chosen also gathered together. After a short discussion, they were certain. 1 against 4. After all, it was not embarrassing to lose to Zutui. However, such an opportunity was too rare. The 4 students that Zutui had pointed out were all from the supernatural branch. 2 fire, 1 water, and 1 earth. It could be considered a more scientific team and also a more difficult one. It had offense and defense, and its attack form was very comprehensive. The 4 students were led by the male student in the baseball cap. In just a minute, the 4 of them had roughly come up with a plan of attack. Zutui was not anxious at all. He waited quietly. It was a pleasant surprise for someone to ask for a 1-on-3 or even 1-on-4. He had originally thought that he would only be able to achieve 1 or 2 goals today. He did not expect that someone would come up to him like this and allow him to complete the 4 goals of the plan. Of course, Zutui had come to this combat training class today to look for trouble by conducting these combat training classes that had no nutritional value to him. The male student in the baseball cap was Zutui's first target. His name was Shang Chun, according to the various data that Huang had gathered. He was one of the top 10 genius students in the mystery branch this year. His combat strength was also very powerful. Based on the combat strength he displayed, he could even be ranked in the top 5 of the Year 1 mystery branch. Of course, he had another identity. He was a special student. Shang Chun was Wen Xiao's special student. Not many students knew about this information. After all, it was only stored in the school's database and would not be shown off. However, Huang had gathered this information. Zutui did not ask how he managed to gather the information, but it was enough to make Shang Chun his number 1 target. Since Wen Xiao and the rest of the people from the supernatural branch dared to use Zutui as an excuse to protect the interests of the supernatural branch, Zutui would dare to strike back at them from the most unexpected angle. Soon, the 4 students led by Shang Chun put on their combat uniforms and went on stage. The 4 of them fanned out and stood 10 meters away from Zutui. Seeing 4 students getting onto the combat stage at the same time, this scene immediately attracted the attention of the rest of the teaching assistants. They only acted as guards when the students had actual combat exchanges. It was to prevent students from accidentally dying or being crippled because they could not stop. It was mainly to guard against these 2 points. It did not matter if they were injured. "What are they doing?" the assistant asked. "Zutui wants to fight 1 against 4. 1 against 4? The teaching assistant was a little stunned. "Zutui, do you have any problems?" "No." Zutui was very certain. "Please be careful, teachers, in case anything happens," Zutui added. As the teaching assistants nodded, one of them said worriedly, "It's 1 against 4. There are more people. Should we invite Director Wen over?" "I don't think we need to, do we?" "We should be careful. Let's inform Director Wen." An assistant teacher immediately sent a message to Wen Xiao. However, at the same time, the actual combat training between Zutun and the 4 students had begun. The actual combat training in the combat training class was very casual. "Ready, start!" A student acted as the referee. The moment his voice fell, the 4 students attacked Zutun at the same time. The Earth Element supernatural student was the fastest. He took a step forward and waved his hand. An Earth spike shot out from 2 meters in front of Zutun and shot toward him. Currently, the mind power of an Earth Element superb individual was limited, and the summoning range of the Earth spike was also limited. Almost at the same time, the Water-type superb individual threw out a circle of water droplets with his water-stained hand. 4 water droplets formed 4 water shields in front of the 4 people who were participating in the battle. The other water droplet turned into a water arrow and shot towards Zutui. The other 2 fire element superb individuals were the slowest, but their attacks were the sharpest. One of them tapped his fingers together. With every tap, a small rocket shot towards Zutui. In comparison, Shang Chun's attack was very stunning. As he opened and closed his hands slightly, Shang Chun threw a large fire whip at Zutui. In an instant, Zutui was facing an all-round attack. All the students present held their breaths as they watched this one-on for battle. Zutui did not make any unnecessary movements. He used his mental shield to block the earth spike and the fire whip. He dodged those small fire arrows that were fired continuously easily as their speed was even slower than Zuo Kinking's lightning. The moment it flashed past, 4 alloy silver pills spiraled out. As soon as the silver pills appeared, both the spectators and the participants became nervous. Attack according to the plan. Shang Chun let out a low shout. At this moment, the Earth-type superb individual pressed his hands down slightly. The ground under Zhu Tui's feet suddenly became extremely soft. The ground caved in. However, the moment the ground caved in, Zhu Tui took a step to the side and turned around, avoiding the area that had caved in. Continue! Shang Chun roared angrily. His fire whip was still restraining Zhu Tui, but the other fire-type superb individual had already given up on attacking. He began to condense balls of flames. The aura of the flames in the air became extremely dense. The water-type superb individual, on the other hand, was in charge of defense. He kept stacking water shields on the 4 of them. The moment Zhu Tui dodged, the earth element superb individual let out a sharp cry and waved his hand. As he was close to Zhu Tui, he summoned an earth spike under Zhu Tui's feet. He sensed the appearance of the earth spike. Zhu Tui sneered. He raised his foot slightly, a mental brick instantiated below his foot, and he stepped down. Bang! Zhu Tui stomped on the ground and crushed the spikes. While the earth element superb individual was in a daze, Shang Chun suddenly roared and rubbed his hands together. In an instant, he used the extremely dense flame aura in the air to create 4 fire whips. The 4 fire whips blocked off all of Zhu Tui's escape routes and shot toward him. At the same time, a powerful mind power fluctuation suddenly appeared in the office in the distance. This mind power fluctuation was so powerful that even Zhu Tui, who was almost 500 meters away from the office, could sense it. In an instant, a thought appeared in Zhu Tui's mind: the game was over. If it did not end soon, he would not have another chance. That powerful mind power fluctuation was most likely released by Wen Xiao. Wen Xiao might be rushing over soon. To Zhu Tui, although it was not too difficult to fight 1 against 4, this method of fighting was quite challenging. If it were not for the sudden burst of mind power, he would have wanted to fight for a while longer. 2 huge mental shields spread out like closed eggshells, blocking the concentrated fire of Shang Chun's 4 fire whips. Sparks flew in all directions. At the same time, the shrill sound of the alloy silver pill piercing through the air and the screams of the 4 superb-type students sounded at the same time. All the students who were watching the battle felt a silver light flash before the 4 students from the supernatural branch screamed and fell to the ground. It was also at this moment that Zhu Tui casually took a step to the side and dodged another earth element attack. At this moment, the students watching the battle realized that the 4 superb individuals were hugging their thighs and groaning in pain. The 4 alloy silver pills hovered in the air. At the office building 500 meters away, Wen Xiao, who had just seen the message, directly jumped out of the window. He stepped into the air and leaped and landed. He could cross a distance of dozens of meters. Wen Xiao quickly covered the 500-meter distance.